Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you happen to be watching this. Hope you're having a good day. Today is hopefully going to be a short little video. We're going to look at Up in Smoke, the third chapter of the Many Deaths of Laila Starr. And in class today, I'm going to be spending a lot of time asking questions. So this video is just telling you the questions I'm going to be asking. If I do my job, students will answer a few of them. We might do a daily writing or two or three about the questions. And when you get back to class, talk to me and we'll kind of wrap everything up here. For the YouTube bots, please remember, as always, all borrowed images and quoted text are used for educational purposes. I'm not trying to make a buck out of this video. It's not monetized. This is just a way for students who aren't in class to catch up. As I said at the start, this will be an attempt to ask questions and satisfy curiosity. Mostly, I know myself well enough to know that I'll start pontificating sometime, either during this video or in class. And if I screw up too much, all my plans are going to go up in smoke, just like Laila Starr at the tail end of the chapter 3. The book is about youth. It might be about the deaths of dreams, the deaths of innocence, and how dreams and innocence can, as the chapter title says, go up in smoke. But it shows Darius and Laila to some degree. It shows them dealing with life in their late teens, early 20s. It was 8 years and then 12 years, so let's assume that they're both 20. It's been a year, so let's assume they're close to 21. And it mentions engrossed in the great rituals of youth. I'm going to talk in class and ask the question, what are the rituals of youth in 2024? What are those little rites of passage that everybody goes through? Not the formal ones necessarily, although we might talk about those as well, but are there informal rites of passage? Are there little stupid things that people need to do to be considered ready for college or ready for adulthood or any of those sorts of things? So we're just going to ask the question. The second part of the uh, panel, writing their own dreams onto peeling walls, leads us into the next slide. Some of this takes place at an abandoned mattress company where the thing burns up. And at the mattress company, they had proudly proclaimed the motto on the wall: we don't just make pillows, we make dreams. But there's that big X right over the we. There's the big X over the, don't make pillows, make dreams might be the motto here. But at the same time, that X through a sign about dreams does, I think, always prompt the question: are the dreams possible? In the year of our Lord 2024, I'm going to certainly be asking the question, what are the dreams of 2024? And do students still believe they're possible? I think this one's going to be one of the daily writings. I'm just going to ask about accuracy. Is part of being 20, and I'm going to preface it by saying I'm 66. I barely remember being 46. I certainly don't remember being 26, let alone 18, 19, 20, or 21. So is youth now negotiating vulnerabilities? And is it about some laughs, a few confessions, and a few guilty pleasures, for lack of that word, where you kind of steal away and you hide away, and you have a few guilty pleasures hidden away someplace? Is that what it is for youth in 2024 or not? I'm just going to ask people to tell me whether it's accurate in class. We're going to talk about the idea of the death of innocence. And as a college freshman or sophomore or junior, have you achieved that death of innocence that leads you to believe you only find love once? Or have you gotten beyond that Have you gotten a little more, for lack of a better word, a little more hard hearted? Have you developed a few scars and you've healed up and you're moving beyond that? Or is that still what it is? Or is Rom V just projecting something that's not really accurate? I want to find out what people think here, because I do think that this passage, this chapter, is as much about being alive as it is about life and death. Certainly, we get to the idea of friendship, and we get to the idea of it's the many deaths of Layla Starr. And if we're going to deal with the deaths, sometimes they're not physical. Sometimes there's just this idea of ending things. So we have the ending of a friendship. He gave me a black eye. I said terrible things to him. And we have Darius coming to this realization that that friendship maybe can't come back. And also coming to the realization, I think, that perhaps one of the reasons it can't come back is because Darius has suddenly moved on and no longer wants to be like the friend. That Darius is, in his own way, kind of growing and maturing and leaving childhood behind him as he's leaving the innocence behind him. And this realization that you can't go back, not just because of all the terrible things, but because you've realized you no longer want to be like him, is, I think, something we might want to talk about in class. And again, is this accurate, or is Rom V merely projecting? Over on the right-hand side of the screen, I left the pillow factory vowing never to return. I'm wondering how much that applies to some of the students in class. The idea of you left the town, you know, not going to return much. You don't want to come back and live there. You want to move beyond that small town. How many of them want to return back to the small town? Or I've got students from all over, so how many of them want to return back to a more urban center? Or how many of them want to move on and just never look back? And so there's kind of an optimism of never looking back, perhaps, that I want to talk about as well, not just the negative of I've lost a friend, I'm never looking back. This slide is really simple. Do they know a lot of people who are okay with the free fall that their adolescent life has been? It's all we're going to talk about. We're going to see if those people are there, or once again, if Ram V, because he was in Mumbai, because it was India, because it was a different culture, if that part of it is, um, just something in Ram V's head, or if that's true for a lot of people. So we're going to chat about that. It's just going to be the simple question and the simple discussion. And I'm going to ask the same question here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the idea of trying to make sure that we run through, words and how many levels there are. For example, the point of my life, my friend, is to be smoked. That might be, the point of my friend, my life is to be baked, just to, kind of, just escape life totally and completely. Um, the other part might be the idea that point of life is just to be used up and to use it up and to live it hard. I'm an old man. I can remember, people still talking about the James Dean quote, live hard, die young, leave a beautiful corpse. Is that what Laila Starr is talking about? Is that attitude prevalent? Whatever level we're going to take it at, I think that's what we're going to try to do here, is just talk about how prevalent is this belief, same way we're going to talk about the adolescent, in free fall. Ram V, when he wrote the script for the book, wanted the graffiti, "You will never get over your first heartbreak," and he told the artist to put it there. According to the interviews I've seen with Ram V, he did not ask the artist to sign his name in the graffiti. That was a little bit of an additional touch. So let's just assume that we're not positive Rom V believes the line. We're just going to assume that he thought it sounded good, that it sounded like something would be said by somebody who lives in a pillow factory. This is kind of the mention of death, but this is more, again, the idea of friendship, the idea of family, perhaps, the idea of the found family, I think is part of what was going on there. And just what parts of us need to be held up, and how do friends, how do family, how does faith, how does education hold us up? I think those are all parts of things that we need to kind of deal with. And so I think that's what this section is about in some degree. How do we get the support we need? And what happens when some of those support systems get kicked away from us, or we kick them away from us through our actions? There's going to be 2 slides. We're just going to read, we're just going to talk, and we're just going to try to answer the question, how cold is this? And we'll perhaps talk about, is life too short to arrive at the end without any broken hearts to show for it? Is the idea that we have to get some pain, that we have to end a few relationships, we have to break some hearts, even if we end up breaking our own a little bit, is that part of it? And so young Darius is having his heart broken. We don't know what Danica is going to be feeling about this as she breaks his heart. But the question, I think, for us as readers is, or for me as a reader, is just how cold is this? And are people at 16, 18, 20, 22 actually that cold? Here's where I'm probably going to start sermonizing. The idea that we're going to have people taking up arms in the name of great men and gods, and that they're going to wind up setting a whole city, a whole country, a whole world on fire without realizing that the fact that they want a temple or they want built or an edifice torn down, and that they're going to do it in the name of God or in the name of great men or in the name of heaven, that they don't understand how fragile everything is, that in a lot of ways, socially, we live in a house of cards. Individually, a lot of us live in a house of cards. And I just am going to sermonize a little bit in class about that sort of fragility and how taking the names of the great and the good and the gods might be doing a disservice as we're just trying to build a temple or tear down something else, and we're not really doing something for the good of humanity. I'll stop my sermonizing for the video right here. And finally, I'm going to talk once again about peeling the apple. Prana is saying, I'm nothing without you. And obviously, he's talking to Kali/Laila. And obviously, we are reminded that this is life talking to death. But I do think, in light of this chapter, there's this idea of, is this one human to other humans trying to remind us, especially in light of the slides that just came before this, that we are nothing without each other, and that we perhaps need to remember that. And is it this idea of friends to friends, and we need to remember it at a close level, lovers to lovers as a closer level, or to go back to the big picture? Is it something we need to remember as we are just talking to other people we come in contact with each and every day? That humans need other humans all the time. I think this wraps it up. Again, students in class are going to be doing some writing. Talk to me about the writings when you get back. And we're just going to try to have a discussion. I'm going to try to satisfy my curiosity. I'm going to satisfy or hope to create some curiosity in other students, maybe satisfy a little of their curiosity. And I want people to remember that even though it's the many deaths of Layla Starr, we're not always talking about the physical end of something. There's lots of times where we might be dealing with an emotional end as well. Hope everybody has a good day. Hope to see you all in class the next class period. And ask questions, be curious. Like it says here, peel the apple.